Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome everyone. So in my last video I'd actually made this hollow form, but it was, even though I didn't show the making of it, it was all about using the universal thread chasing tools from Ashley Isles. And so this is where it's ended up. Got a nice thread on there and on the inside there, and that's how I've left it. Now the whole piece has been sanded up on the outside to 600 grit. And although it's fairly nice wood, and I suspect with a bit of sanding sealer on and some wax on there it will come up really nicely, but I want to do a little bit more to it. And those who follow me and know me will know that I'm not one for usually doing much with colouring. I've done a few things in the past with things like my walnut crystals, so it just keeps that natural wood colour, but just darkening it. Most wood turners, when they associate colouring wood, will often think of things like, certainly for the UK, using things like the Hampshire Sheen Intrisic Colours, which are a water-based colour, the Chestnut Products spirit stains, and all these colours with the things like the bright reds, yellows, oranges, purples, greens, all the colours that you don't normally associate with as a wood colour. Now the other thing what I picked up fairly cheaply recently was also chestnut on their spirit stains do a set of wood colours. Now this is quite a big pack, certainly compared to their colour ones. I mean, there must be another 4 or 5 bottles at least in here of different colours. Put a list along the screen of what all the colours are. Certainly do look at their website. I'll try and put a link below, but if not, just search for Chestnut Products and it will come up with their website. So this really is keeping totally in line with natural wood colours, even though I'm changing the colour of what one wood is to another. Now it's something we've done in history for centuries. We've always coloured wood in some form of a way. I mean, for example, this piece of mahogany here, which is exactly the same wood as this, you can see it's the same wood inside. By the time somebody's put a polish on there, which I suspect this is shellac, it's darkened the whole wood up. And it might have been that they've either used something like the orange flakes, which gives it that more richer colour, or it might be that they've actually put some form of colouring in there. But either way, that's not really the natural colour of the wood, because it should be like that. I think to start with, I'm going to start off with something like the antique mahogany, which is probably something like that, but maybe not quite so dark. See what it comes up like, and then I might even go for a darker one to do something like render base to try and feather it all in or something, just to make it look a little bit different. Just picked out 2 in actual fact. I've gone for the red mahogany, so I really don't know what that's going to be like, and I've got the antique mahogany. What I think I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to use the antique mahogany because hopefully that's a little bit darker, and then I may well sand this back. And this has already been sanded to 600. It might not be the most perfect thing, so it might show up some scratches and everything as well. I mean, I've got a little mark out there. Certainly when you're using colours like this, unless you really want them ingrained in your hands for a while, at least wear one glove. I do have one glove that I'm just wearing for this. So I'm just going to go for the red first. And I've already had a good shake. And I'm just going to put these on with kitchen roll. So even though that says red, that's coming out to me just sort of darkening the wood a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see sort of what effect these have on the wood. I've got to say that's actually quite nice. Just going to put a little bit more on to darken it up. Getting it into all the little nooks and crannies might be the problem. So I don't think I'm going to need to sand this back actually, because what what a lot of people do with colouring is they'll often put, say, like something like a black on, and then they'll sand it back so that just the black is left in the grain. But because this is much lighter, it's just colouring the wood as well. See what putting the antique mahogany comes in like over the top. See, that I can see is certainly going to be a lot darker. Just going to put this on the bottom. Which I don't know whether it's actually having much of an effect. Now, there's only subtle differences in there, which is what I'd expect, because I mean you can see that the two colours are very similar. So this one should be a lot darker as a brown mahogany. Yeah, so I mean that's coming out on the kitchen roll almost black. So that's really darkening up the bottom now. Again, just go back to the first one to try and make that a little bit more subtle where the join is. So that's certainly made a difference. Certainly from where it was plain. I'm going to let that dry and I'll get some wax on. Now, here's the finished result. To me, this has come out really, really nicely. I've got a slightly darker bottom there, and then the top half goes to that more ready mahogany colour, and I even did put a little bit of dark piece on the top there just so it looks like it's sort of like a worn top as well. And to me that's very, very subtle. I've even coloured the bottom as well with the dark, but when we open the top and for inside we can at least see what the original wood is like, which again could all be coloured if you really wanted to, but I just like that. It's kept that very, very natural wood look on something. As I say, you wouldn't necessarily, when you look at that wood, will have always thought that it's that lighter colour inside. So it's not until you actually look underneath the polish that you actually see really what the wood's like. Now, I don't think I've actually seen anybody, certainly on the wood turning side, use the Spirit wood colour stains from Chestnut Products. Well, of course, you don't actually have to stick to something like the Chestnut Products. I'm sure that if you went to your local hardware store, like B&Q in the UK and Wickes and stuff like that, they all do wood stains. Some are very limited, some have a lot more, and depending on sort of like how they're based, especially if they're water based, that you could use them things a bit like the Intrisic Colours from Hampshire Sheen. If they're more chemical based, a bit like the Spirit stains, then you've just got to think how you can apply them. But certainly something like that you'll probably find they're reasonably costed. The only difference is at least you're not going to get such a big variety as you would with something like this, but it might give you different things to think about. Now, just one thing for those people who totally dislike colouring of wood, thinking this is just unnatural to do this sort of thing. I mean, I myself really, really do like natural wood. I still like this because it looks natural wood. I haven't gone off and put some red and purple and everything on it, even though some of those pieces I do like, but I do prefer something like this. Now, for those people who think this is not really keeping in tune with the proper wood, we've all been doing some form of colouring. I bet even those people who like the natural wood, if you put scorch marks on the wood, especially like using a wire to put a burn ring in, you're colouring the wood. You're just using a heat process to change the colour of the wood. You might use an ebonising solution, especially on something like oak, in the past, where I've done things like my cannon, where I've turned it almost black, and a wand, just using a chemical reaction to the wood, I've coloured it. We all do some form of colouring, often to wood. It's just that we don't sort of say that we're putting a bright red, bright yellow onto the wood to totally make it look something different. Thanks a lot for watching.